Texas Tech plays like a national title contender again against BYU. Who's going to get left out?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth, right here at the number one sports podcast network out there. Texas Tech looks real. BYU, it's not a good day to be a BYU Cougars fan. This episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. BYU should still be in the playoff. They are not going to be. They are not going to be after. I want to make it very clear where I stand up front. Going into this game, I said BYU should be in. Even after watching this game, I'm saying BYU should be in the college football playoff. When you lose in dominant fashion like that, turnovers or not, BYU couldn't move the ball against Texas Tech. That's what it came down to. They looked like they were outclassed. You know why? Because Texas Tech is the class of the Big 12. They're the best team in the conference. They have not lost a football game this year. When Baron Morton starts, I'm going to talk more about them later. But on my fan mood assessment here, it's the worst of vibes for BYU. Had a chance for your first Big 12 championship, turn the ball over. Oh, I think they just turned it over again as I'm recording this show. Texas Tech was just significantly better. You were win and into the college football playoff without question. Now you leave it in the hands of the committee, and I don't know how after a loss of over 20 points in the conference championship game, you're going to jump ahead of Notre Dame, whose football account on Twitter put out a little ode to Texas Tech that they are rooting for them, and that's because this happened. Now, here's the interesting thing. BYU gets crushed in this spot. Are they going to stay at 11? Are they just not moving? Are they just going to be that buffer I talked about earlier this week? Or does BYU drop, Miami moves up, and maybe Miami goes into the college football playoff? I don't think that's a crazy scenario whatsoever. But in this game, a couple of things did BYU. And yes, the turnovers were certainly a part of it. But the difference in the trench play is what really led to the turnovers. I would put that number one before Bear Bachmeier, who's probably the third reason why BYU lost this football game. And I know there are plenty of folks out there that look at Texas Tech and say, wow, they just bought this. They paid for their yeah, as opposed to all the other great rosters in college football history that were notably free. I don't know which one you'd be referring to there. But Texas Tech was just significantly better than BYU, who did not do themselves any favors. They came out and had a great game plan. Offense coordinator Aaron Roderick, man, he knew how to attack the Texas Tech defense on the first drive. But once they got off script, they couldn't do it. They could not do it because it looked like BYU studied the game tape from game one earlier this year in Lubbock and said, okay, they're going to do this, meaning we need to do these things. They come out and they do it right away, and everything feels great in BYU land. Everything feels like, oh my goodness, here we go. And after that, there were no adjustments. And the difference is Texas Tech just has better personnel than BYU. And this is not to say that BYU isn't a playoff caliber team. They've had a playoff caliber season. They didn't look like a playoff team in this particular game. And the difference is up front. BYU is not good enough in the trenches. I think their defense, absolutely. BYU's defense, the Cougars, to me, are very similar to Oklahoma. Both teams lean into defense and special teams. Of course, they tried the fake punt. That didn't work. I know everybody ripped it, but that's what happens when a special teams play like that goes awry. Oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. Like, no, you're either okay with the aggression or you're not. In a game like that, I absolutely am okay with it because you are all or nothing there. So it wasn't great execution. Texas Tech snuffed it out, but guess what? I'm totally fine with BYU calling the fake punt in that particular spot. So I think that for BYU, their defense is so good, and their special teams usually make those sorts of plays. Missing a field goal early on didn't help, would not have mattered in the end because they couldn't protect the football. But when I watch BYU's offense and I watch Oklahoma's offense, I see a lot of the same things. I see a quarterback that can run, whose legs have to save you, and then if that's taken away, BYU's a better team running the football, but when you're going up against statistically the best run defense in the country, suddenly that becomes much more difficult when you can't get the numbers advantage that you've had with Bear Bachmeier running the ball all year. You take away the quarterback draw, you take away the quarterback scramble, and you're left with a straight drop back passing game. And that's not what either team is designed to do. It's not what they are good at. It's not what their personnel are capable of being good at consistently. So I think the areas of growth for BYU that have to come if they're going to win a conference championship game one day is very real, is very clear, is very obvious. And guess what? You went into that game with a true freshman quarterback, and let's talk about Bear Bachmeier. He looked like a true freshman out there. Happens. It sucks that it happened in this particular spot, but that's what this game looked like, is the interception that flipped the game. This was competitive. It was a 6-point game at the half. And then all of a sudden, Texas Tech opened the floodgates in the second half. And it all started with an interception from Bear Bachmeier that was as big of a stare down as I have ever seen from a quarterback, even a true freshman. When the read isn't there, you got to come off of it, man. You got to get to the next guy in your progression. He just stayed on it. He stayed on it. He stayed on it. And then he tried to thread the needle because it was a third down. And what do you know? If you punt that ball to Texas Tech, there's no guarantee that they're going down the field. Texas Tech has got an explosive offense. Their longest touchdown, and I think longest play in this game, was the most blatant offensive pass interference I've ever seen. And the guy ran out of bounds. Horrible stretch there from the Big 12 crew in this one. Offensive pass interference continues to be the most undercalled penalty in all of college football. But BYU's defense is playoff caliber. BYU's defense can keep them in almost any game. The problem is not just that they turn the ball over, it's that they turn the ball over on their own side of the field. Reminded me of my Seahawks in the NFL. Sam Darnold turns the ball over a pretty good amount. The biggest problem with that is that it's not on a 30-yard rainbow down the field that serves as a punt. It's turning the ball over inside your own 40. And the number of times in both of these games against Texas Tech, the BYU's defense has stiffened up and held the Red Raiders to a field goal has been nothing short of exceptional. And from an eye test standpoint, which this committee loves, BYU's defense is playoff caliber. If you believe Texas Tech is a playoff team, did you notice on the broadcast as well how many times Texas Tech is in, whether they win or lose? Like, wait a minute. What do you mean they're in if they win? They're in at 11-2, but BYU's not in at 11-2? Yeah, they should be ranked behind them because of the head-to-head factor. But why? Why? So BYU's playoff resume to me, whether you look at strength of schedule, strength of record, top 25, anything of that sort, BYU should be in the college football playoff. But unfortunately, this game has given the committee all the ammunition they need to justify the eye test description and keep them out. And Bear Bachmeier didn't have a great day, and the fake punt didn't work out, and the turnovers kept spiraling. I think the turnovers were, yes, about the mistakes BYU made, but man, Texas Tech's defense is really, really good. So it's the worst of vibes, unfortunately, in Provo, because I think you can all but guarantee they will not be in the college football playoff. They should be. They won't be. And I think that's unfortunate, to say the least. I think it sucks. I think it sucks. I think it is dumb. I think the committee's doing this for the wrong reasons. And BYU fans, you have a legitimate gripe. You also have a football program that has now in 2 games against Texas Tech made it very clear how far you still have to go to take that next step. They can get there because your head coach is sticking around, and that's a pretty big deal. But this was not a good day for BYU. It was, however, quite the day for Texas Tech. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, like the Big 12 championship game where Texas Tech starts to get themselves rolling. They were favored by 12.5 points. They covered yet again. They covered 2 double-digit spreads, according to our friends at FanDuel, against BYU this year. A big-time statement, as I'll talk about in a moment, from Joey McGuire's program. But live betting NFL games, betting college football games, everything you could possibly want, FanDuel has you covered. Point spread, point total, money line, prop bets, futures, it's all over there. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. At the end of the first quarter, it was BYU 7, Texas Tech 0. At that point, the vibes in Provo were high. The vibes in Lubbock, a little bit nervous. The Red Raiders were not worried whatsoever. A 34-0 run to punch your ticket to being a top 4 seed in the college football playoff, to win your first ever Big 12 championship. The Red Raiders look like a national title contender. This is a team that I feel like can win a lot of different styles of football game. I know he didn't have a perfect day, but I feel like their kicker's good. You know, Baron Morton can throw the ball. Not always the most efficient, but he can create explosive plays. The receiving core's got some depth. They can run the ball really well. They outgained BYU on the ground in this one, 159-63, almost a 100-yard advantage, despite having just 11 more carries. So neither team ran it incredibly well in this game, but Texas Tech did enough. And they won this game, of course, with defense. The Red Raiders finished with under 400 yards of total offense. I think that actually is reflective. I could very easily make the case, no, their offense played much better than that. They really didn't. The defense just kept giving them short fields, and they didn't have to go very far for some of their touchdowns, or they were already in field goal range when BYU stopped them. BYU's got a legit defense. As I talked about earlier in the show, they have a playoff caliber defense. And Texas Tech put up 34 points because their ability to play complementary football and take away what a team does well is as strong as any in the country. BYU finished with exactly 200 yards of total offense in this game. And by the way, how much of that was on the first drive? I believe 90. Pretty sure the first drive of the game for Texas Tech, they conceded a 14-play, 90-yard drive. BYU executed flawlessly. They ran it. They threw it a little. Bear Bachmeier was still fully healthy. Then the Texas Tech defense locked in hard and just went full on remember the Titans. You don't allow another yard. They obviously allowed a few yards, but not many. And look, there is an element of inconsistency with high turnover games. This conversation came about after Alabama lost at home to Oklahoma. Well, they outgained them. Well, Oklahoma, they just got the turnovers. Right, because there are two different ways to look at that particular stat. Are they turnovers or are they takeaways? Because takeaways are when the defense actually makes a play and forces the offense into a mistake. A turnover is when the offense steps on a rake and whacks itself in the forehead. Texas Tech was forcing turnovers in this game. Their defensive line beat up the BYU offensive line the entire game. You look at the fumble in the second half where Bear Bachmeier's just trying to execute a pretty simple play action and they don't have time to get the fake exchange because Texas Tech's into the backfield. The investment that the Red Raiders made on the defensive side of the ball has brought into focus the old adage, defense wins championships. That's what just won them their first Big 12 championship. The highest of vibes belong to the fans in Lubbock because nothing should feel better. You are 12-1, Big 12 champions, and you haven't lost a game this season in which Baron Morton starts. And you're 1-1 with your backup quarterback for what it's worth. Darn near 2-0. And both of those games were on the road. It is hard to imagine how Texas Tech's season could be more dominant than it has been. They lost one game by 4 points on the road to an 8-win team with their backup quarterback. Every other game, they just completely dominated their opponent. Their margin of victories, I'm not going to include the non-Power 4 games. Their margin of victory goes like this: 31, 24, 24, 25, 42, 23, 22, 38, 39, had to do some quick math there, 49-27. They are beating the living daylights out of everyone. And their defense, to make as many plays as they did, Jacob Rodriguez gets a bunch of the credit. You know why? He's the best linebacker in all of college football. He isn't the one that had 2 interceptions in this game. Ben Roberts was. A name that most people probably learned for the very first time. That you could have your most impactful defensive player have a great game, and you look up and say, he was like the 3rd best defender on the field in this game for Texas Tech, is a testament to what they have built on that side of the ball. Because it's nothing short of remarkable. And Joey McGuire deserves a lot of credit. And yes, Cody Campbell deserves a lot of credit, and their GM and their staff. Everyone has done an exceptional job, and you cannot look much better at this point in the season than Texas Tech does, because the Red Raiders look like a national championship contender. And I know everyone wants to throw slides at the Big 12. And no, I don't think the Big 12 is as good as the SEC or the Big 10. Texas Tech, however, is as good as teams in the SEC or the Big 10. Ohio State or Indiana? Don't know. Because I think those 2 teams might just be a level above, really Ohio State, might just be a level above everybody else in the sport. But Texas Tech is a team that has so many different ways to win. And I feel like they can get short yardage when they need to. They can create explosives when they need to. They take away explosives. They can force turnovers. They get after the quarterback. They stop the run. Their kicker's got a big leg and has mostly been solid this year. I just look, I know he missed twice today, but I think that for Texas Tech, there is no style of game that you can force them into they can't win. That was one of the biggest differences between Texas Tech and BYU. You force BYU to be a drop-back passing team, they're not built for that. With a true freshman quarterback especially. Baron Morton on the other side could do it. He's a veteran. He's been around for a while. Bear Bachmeier can get there. He's not right now. That was evident today. And the Texas Tech defense had him in full Sam Darnold mode, seeing ghosts, circa Monday Night Football with the Jets back in, was it 2017, 18 or so? I think that the way Texas Tech is built is not just to win the Big 12, it's to go win a national championship. That's the sort of standard that is beginning to rise and percolate all throughout Lubbock, Texas. And you know what? It should. Because people like myself and Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, had them as the number 1 team in the Big 12 coming into this season. And guess what? We took plenty of flack for that. Because it's Texas Tech, and they're not going to do it, and they're not going to do this. Well, here they are. There is nothing that Texas Tech could have done other than keep Baron Morton healthy for one more game, in which I think they would have then beaten Arizona State. There's nothing that they could have done this year that is more impressive. So I wouldn't want to face them in the playoff. They're going to have a long layoff because that's the way that this broken college football calendar works. They won't play a game until December 31st or January 1st, but boy, they feel good right now. And boy, those fans in Lubbock that have waited for so long. This feels like it was for Mike Leach, wasn't it? At some level, RIP, forever and always, Pirate. But what Mike Leach did at Texas Tech was incredible and never got to be where this team is. Joey McGuire has built Texas Tech to be the best version of their football program they have ever been. And for them to be a defensively led team while still having that offensive explosiveness is nothing short of remarkable when you consider where this program has been for most of its existence. And now it's here, and it's on top of the Big 12, and everyone's looking up. BYU's a darn good football team. They're looking up at Texas Tech. And Utah's a really good football team, and they're looking up at Texas Tech. And this is a statement sort of win, to not just get the victory, but to win by 27. And when your starter plays, you don't win by less than 20 points. That's about as impressive as you can be. So Texas Tech looks like a national title threat. What a time to be a Red Raiders fan. Such good vibes going there in Lubbock. The same is said for the great city of New Orleans. First, this episode brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when the person you give the gift to plugs it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. I have seen one of these, and let me tell you, they look great. It's not just a digital frame that doesn't think about design or aesthetic at all. It looks phenomenal, and then the pictures change. It's something out of Harry Potter. It really is. The pictures move, the pictures change. It's the perfect holiday gift if you want to make a connection with somebody. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Check them out at auraframes.com. John Sumrall is going to the college football playoff, and you can still find Florida fans that are not happy with John Sumrall being their head coach. I don't know, Tulane has just gone where he prophesized they would go at his introductory press conference. He's made 4 straight conference championship games. I believe he's won 2 of them now. And the Green Wave take care of North Texas, as I thought they would, 34-21. And it was the Tulane defense that wound up stepping up in this game because they controlled the game up front. That's what it came down to. Drew Mestemaker threw 3 interceptions, mostly because he was getting hounded all day by this Tulane defense. And so their ability to have improved significantly from what they were doing earlier this season is why the Green Wave are going to the college football playoff. Will they be the 11 seed or the 12 seed? Will they play Oregon, Ole Miss, or perhaps somebody else? We don't know, because as I record this show, the ACC championship hasn't played itself out yet. But what a job by Tulane. What a job by Jake Retzloff and the Green Wave. They ran the ball to the tune of 200 yards and 3 touchdowns as a team in this game, 199 if you want to be exact. And, oh, what a shock. In a big game, the team that ran for more yards won. Jake Retzloff didn't throw the ball a whole heck of a lot. He was 13-22, 145 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. This was a play-in game for the college football playoff. We can debate the merits of whether or not the G5 should automatically get a team in, whether they should get 2 teams in, if the ACC champion winds up being Duke, whether that's fair to teams like Miami or BYU. I don't think it is, but you know what? I don't make the rules. I just abide by them. I just operate within the confines of the structure that has been built. So for Tulane going into the college football playoff, are they dangerous? That's not how I would describe them. They're having an awesome season. They've got a really good head coach. They have an it factor to them. They also won the turnover battle in this game against North Texas. I don't think as far as group of 5 teams go, Tulane is the most dangerous that we've ever seen. Last year's Boise State team was really good. Darn near beat Oregon in Eugene. Was competitive with Penn State. The Nittany Lions pulled away at the end to win by 17, but that was a close, hard-fought, competitive football game. Tulane's one game against a playoff team earlier this season, they got smacked around by Ole Miss. Now, that's not me saying that should automatically disqualify them from the playoff, because I give their athletic department props for putting 3 Power 4 teams on the schedule in Duke out of the ACC, Northwestern out of the Big Ten, and, of course, Ole Miss out of the SEC. And, by the way, Northwestern, bowl team, and Duke in the ACC championship game. So not a bad couple of wins. And as this debate has played itself out throughout the course of the year, I've long been in 2 camps, because there are 2 different ways that I look at this. I've always felt Tulane has the best resume of any of the group of 5 teams, and I always felt like Tulane was the best team. But here's the thing, and this goes back to the BYU conversation as well. What I think, or what some other national pundit thinks, just shouldn't matter. Whenever you, like ESPN, man, they're just crushing their own reputation with stuff like this. They put out a graphic that said Notre Dame would be favored against Miami, BYU, and Alabama. This is a G-rated show, so I can't give the full unfiltered thought of what I'd like to say to that, but let me give you as close as I can. Who in the world cares? Who cares? Results on the field have got to matter, man. I do not give a rip that Notre Dame would be favored over Team X, Y, and Z. Or that I think that, if BYU were to get in and be the 11 seed and play Ole Miss, yeah, I'd probably pick Ole Miss to win the game. I don't care, because what is my priority? To make sure the regular season doesn't become even more diluted, so that when you're watching these games each week, the results mean something and matter. And instead, the committee's telling us that they don't. So what my opinion is, which of course I'm going to come on here and share, because that's the nature of this particular program. Of course, I'm going to have those thoughts. That doesn't mean it should directly impact what happens. So Tulane's going to the playoff. The question is whether they'll be the 11 or the 12 seed. They play in the American. JMU plays in the Sun Belt. So if Duke does beat Virginia, then that puts JMU in, and Tulane, even though they have a one-game worse record, they've got a much tougher strength of schedule than James Madison does, who won their conference championship game, did not roll as I thought they would against Troy. They ended up winning by 17. Game was really competitive all throughout. Thought we were going to see an absolute stunner there, but the Dukes were able to get it done with future UCLA head coach Bob Chesney. And Monday show, I will get back to all the coaching carousel drama, madness, and such. But for the next couple days, football. What a concept to talk about on Locked On College Football. So Tulane should be the 11 seed. Would you rather go to Oregon? Would you rather go to Ole Miss? How is it all going to shake out? Does the SEC champion automatically get a bye? I would think that is the case. But then again, Bama's loss to Florida State is truly terrible. In the fourth best power conference, a team that couldn't make a bowl game beat Alabama by 2 possessions. And again, results need to matter. So bringing this back to the Group of 5 discussion, good for Tulane. The highest of vibes on my fan mood assessment in New Orleans, because, man, the Green Wave, it meant a lot to John Sumrall, meant a lot to those players. And, yeah, he's going to Florida. But guess what? He's done a heck of a job. Heck of a job. It was a great hire by the athletic director. You're going to get some money from Florida since there was still plenty left on his contract, and go hire another good head coach. But big statement for Tulane to be here in the college football playoff. Another Group of 5 outcome I wanted to just note. Boise State owns the Mountain West. I picked UNLV to win the game. I was wrong. I was wrong. I do think it's odd that Group of 5 conference championship games are not at neutral sites. I think that's strange. But BYU has beaten UNLV in the Mountain West championship game 3 straight years. Did you know that? There's an Alabama component forming with Boise State in the Mountain West where you still got to beat them. You still got to knock them up. I can't describe what's going on there other than a mental hurdle. And Boise State's going to the LA Bowl to play Washington. They're not going to wind up in the playoff. If JMU had lost, then maybe 9-4 Boise would have gotten ranked if Duke had won. I don't know. But we don't have to worry about that chaos scenario there, because it will either be James Madison or it will be Virginia for the 11-12 spot in the college football playoff rankings, which come out tomorrow and I'll have a reaction to here on the show. But it's incredible. Boise State 8-4 this year. Remember, they started with that blowout loss to South Florida, and then head coach Alex Golish, who's of course now at Auburn, and they did beat UNLV in the regular season. And UNLV, what a great season for Dan Mullen to go 10-3, be in the Mountain West championship game. Incredible first year. Could be a Power 4 head coach again one day at what is becoming Rehab U down there in Las Vegas, which is not a bad place to be, quite frankly, as a Mountain West program, if you can keep attracting high-level head coaches. But 3 straight years, the last team to win the Mountain West that wasn't Boise State was the Kalen DeBoer coach Fresno State Bulldogs with Jake Haener at quarterback. It's been Boise over UNLV 3 years in a row. There is a Boise hurdle in Las Vegas. I just had to shout that out because I couldn't believe, man, they did it again. And it was a 21-0 lead, and then UNLV stormed back, and Boise State held on at home. The Broncos will look back and go, dang, if they had been 11-2 right now instead of 9-4, I bet you they get the nod over James Madison to go back to the college football playoff should Duke win. But alas, we're sitting here. They'll go to the LA Bowl against Washington. So That's your Groupify check-in for the week. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.